what I've been saying on here for months now, and me and Jordan got a lot of shit for the Sheffield United reaction last season, and maybe so, but ever since then, and I said last week and 2 weeks ago against Everton, there's no creativity in midfield whatsoever, and unless you rely on individual brilliance and something from the wings, nothing happens. And we had wing backs playing against Chorley. One of them costing 9 million, one potentially costing 18 million as well in Ainori if we won the signing 22 or whatever it is. And they didn't do anything. And you got Catrone, we'll come on to Catrone later, but again, they were moving, not very well, but they were moving. And they said in commentary that Ian Wright said last week about Fabio Silva's movement was better against Albion. But there's only so much you can run around before the ball just turns around and goes backwards again, or sideways and then backwards, and then you start again. And it's just Groundhog Day of awfulness at the minute.
And I think I agree. I mean, the biggest thing is the creativity. Now, I got pelters on Twitter last week for saying that Dendoncker shouldn't have started against Albion. Now, for me, he's just not that player. We're trying to look for him to get in the box and sort of wonderfully get all these goals, but he's not that kind of player. Like, I just can't see where the creativity and the goals are coming from, and I don't blame Silva and Catrone. And whilst they weren't great, I get it. At the end of the day, they're not even being given any chances. And the same with Raul, to be fair, a few months ago. Like, he had to create his own chances. So, for me, yes, it's great that we're getting a striker in, but we still need to address the fact that, you know, apart from Neves, Vitinha and Dendoncker have just been, for me, not anywhere near up to the levels that they should be.
Yeah, I mean, we both got stick when you said about Dendoncker's new contract on Twitter as well. When I agreed with you on it, because he's playing like you said, he's playing a role that he shouldn't be playing in. And I thought he was really good today as well, all things considered, playing his actual role as a kind of box-to-box midfielder. But he's not Dave Edwards. He can't do everything. So,
no, I was going to say I'm a big fan of Dendoncker, but it's sort of like, you know, if he's the answer, what's the question a lot of the time with him? And he has clearly got a lot of qualities as a footballer, but he's not a quick passer of the ball, which is what you needed today. As you saw when Neves came on, and immediately he dictated the pace whenever he got the ball. And it was, you know, even if it was to go out wide, there was zip on that ball. It is not something that Dendoncker's really got in his locker. He's got a good engine on it. He can get up and down. But there are points where he was playing on the right wing.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And
he can't cross.
It's jarring to look at. It's like, trying to think of the best way I can describe this, because it's slightly niche. Do you remember England played a warm-up World Cup friendly match against Jamaica and Peter Crouch scored a hat-trick?
Yeah.
Do you remember him missing a penalty?
Yeah.
It was so awkward to watch someone who was 6'7" take a penalty. And that's what it reminds me of when Dendoncker just seemingly... It wasn't even that like he was on the right-hand side, but he sometimes linked up with Doherty and Traore, and he's just almost that third man just to play it off with. He was actively having to be in a position where he had to take on a fullback and knock in a pass. There is no way the system should be designed to have Dendoncker in that position. And again, I think he's got lots of qualities, but he is very much a central player.
Yeah, we've said all season long anyway about it's Dendoncker +1 is the formula, because if he's running around doing the work, the heavy work for everyone else, leave Neves or Vitinha, which, I mean, we'll come on to him in a minute, but it's sad to see, really. But it's Dendoncker +1 because Dendoncker does the hard work. You can't have him doing everything. He can't be relied upon to score because he can't head and he can't shoot in an attacking situation. So just leave him be. Just if he wants to cause chaos and be a nuisance, then fine. But everything seems to be targeting towards him in the box. It's just madness. It doesn't change.
Yeah,
it doesn't. What's the point?
I was going to say,
it doesn't change.
It's almost like we're hoping that he's going to be our sort of creative Madison Grealish player when he's clearly not, and that's not to criticise him. He's got his own strengths and that kind of thing. But I think to sort of, I feel a bit sorry for him actually. I mean, I suppose Vitinha has got the attributes to hopefully be able to play that sort of role. But again, I didn't see that personally. I didn't see him busting a gut to, link the play and get in the box. I just felt he was, apart from the goal, he was tidy, decent passing. But he didn't really impose himself on the game enough for me.
But I don't think that's his fault. I think that's today. It showed more than ever that they are so stranglehold by Nuno and his wankfest of just staying in put the number down. They're so stranglehold by his determination to stick in the lines and stay in your spot. It's just ridiculous now. I mean, it doesn't make any sense because you could see at times where he was looking up and you could see he wanted to try and push on, but then he'd turn around and pass it backwards. It was almost like, oh no, I've gone too far now. I'm going to get a slap.
Yeah, he was in centre midfield. He wasn't playing as that centre attacking midfielder for me.
I think I was going to say for me that arguably said more about Moutinho's performance than Vitinha's because I was always sort of told good players always want the ball, and any good midfielder will always be within sort of 10 yards of the ball, no matter where it is. And there were points where Vitinha was stopping really deep just because he needed the ball to turn on it. And it got me thinking at a certain point in the half where I was like, well, if he's doing that, who's 15 yards further up the pitch? Because we're missing that. And, he seemed to, Vitinha missed almost the two people who should be always either side of him. I think that's sort of down to the wing backs. A lot of Stu mentioned that he was almost having to get the ball, and it was like, well, where do I go? Do I pass to two strikers who are basically just marked up against two big centre halves, or do I turn back and have, Moutinho? And as I said, I think he showed glimpses. I don't think it was a great performance by anyone, but. It is still a big question mark for me, that midfield, because again, similar with Dendoncker, we all sort of say a lot of things about him. I don't think any of them are wrong, but no one really knows what sort of player he actually is.
Still,
that's because he's asked to do. He's been asked to do so many different roles in different games that everyone's kind of confused when. That's never a good thing, is it really? I mean, we know Neves' strengths, weaknesses, clearly. He can pass, he can control the tempo of the game. He hasn't got that pace, but we know what his strengths and weaknesses are and we know what kind of role he plays in the team. Whereas I don't think Dendoncker, he's not great at one particular thing, but he's not awful at anything. But then that's kind of a weakness, I think.
Yeah, he doesn't. I mean, I'd be interested to sort of see him have we said it's Dendoncker +1 in that midfield because he gives you that physicality and he's a decent midfielder. But I still think his future's in a back three personally. I think that sort of suits him a bit better on the right side of it, but. I know. I think it's going to be an interesting one, chiefly because that midfield, it's a problem that has not really been solved, if we're going to be honest, 2.5 seasons in the Premier League. So I think and by the looks of, I guess, the transfer window coming to a close in the next week or so, it doesn't seem like it will be necessarily shifting until the summer now.